and wound up winning the Super Bowl. That's a whole other question. Here's the question for this moment for you from Sneaky Hembo. Who was the all-time leading passer in games played on Thanksgiving?
The Cowboys play every Thanksgiving. I grew up in Dallas and saw Tony Romo play every game. So I'm going with Tony Romo, Greeny. Simple as that.
Which is the other team that plays every year on Thanksgiving?
Maybe the Lions?
The answer is Matthew Stafford. According to Elias, Matthew Stafford has thrown for 2,705 yards in 9 Thanksgiving Day games.
I was close.
I don't know how you make that close. What exactly would make that close? It's the wrong team. I don't think it's close at all, actually.
Whatever, Greeny.
I'm not sure you could have been a whole lot farther away, to be honest with you. But if you want to feel good about
Matthew Stafford was born in Dallas.
Okay, fair enough. So you're that kind of close. Speaking of Dallas, let's get to them. Because Jerry Jones had something very interesting to say when talking about Dak Prescott's contract. Remember Dak Prescott's contract? That thing that we talked about every single day at the beginning of the season? Well, he was asked about it yesterday, and he said, quote, "I'm not known as a guy who gets hand cramps when I'm writing checks, but I want to win football games." And that was on Good Morning Football, I see, yesterday. And you were saying, Acho, that was part of a larger conversation in which he does not seem as though he wants to tie himself to Dak Prescott, and there's something troubling about that.
To me, this might be one of the most idiotic things Jerry Jones has done in the last decade, not signing Dak Prescott earlier on, because you're undermining yourself, Jerry Jones. What I mean by that is you sign Zeke to a long-term deal, and you do that before the season. After Zeke has been suspended, Zeke has held out, Zeke has gotten in trouble. Dak Prescott has done everything you have ever asked, and he's done it at a high level on the field and off the field. To sit here now, when asked about his contract, and say, well, I just want to win games, I understand that, but the only way to win games is to keep Dak Prescott healthy and happy.
Listen, Dak Prescott was drafted in the 4th round.
Yeah.
You've developed this guy. He's been behind, only second to Tom Brady is the winningest quarterback since he's come into the league.
Speak on it, Wood.
What more do you need to see from Dak Prescott? He's elevated this year to an elite level playing quarterback, and you don't want to reward that guy? Like, there's legit hesitation by Jerry Jones to reward this guy?
It makes no sense. Put this in perspective. Ezekiel Elliott got more money on his signing bonus this year, than Dak Prescott has made in 4 years collectively.
Yeah.
Put that all in perspective. It's ridiculous. Look at what one is producing this year versus the other.
I think that the first point you made is a really important one that we should focus on a minute. You're talking about a team that has rewarded a lot of outlandish personalities and has put up with a lot of things, and that's fine. I think Jerry likes all that as part of the show and the conversation. But here is the guy you want to make the example of. We're not going to go to the wall for this guy. He's done everything you could ask a football player to do, to your point, on and off.
Greeny, this is a guy that Dak Prescott shouldn't have to ask to be paid. There's some guys that need to ask, some guys that need to hold out, some guys that need to cause a ruckus and cause chaos. Your quarterback, who's done everything you asked, even to the point where, hey, don't cause any issues with the national anthem. Don't cause any issues on the field. Just be a Cowboy guy and do it the Cowboy way. And he's having to ask for money, and it's ridiculous.
It surprises me, to be completely honest with you, of all the different ways to have played this and all the contracts that they've taken care of recently and everything from any number of players who've had all kinds of off-the-field issues that they've given opportunities to, et cetera. It really does surprise me. This is the spot. They've chosen to draw a very confusing line in the sand. So that's one NFC East quarterback. Let's go to another. And that's the Eagles quarterback, Carson Wentz. He has been a full participant in practice this week after sustaining a bruised middle finger on his throwing hand Sunday against Seattle. Former Eagles quarterback Michael Vick had some unflattering comments about Wentz, and he said, I quote, "He will fail in Philadelphia. The bar has been set so high by Nick Foles. Regardless of when he came in, Foles did what he did and won the Super Bowl. The ceiling has been set. Along with Carson Wentz's character, which has been questioned by his teammates and the public, it just makes it difficult for him. I think he's fighting an uphill battle week in and week out to win, to be a good teammate. It's a lot. It takes a lot from you to handle that responsibility." Wow, that's Michael Vick. Again, the words, he will fail in Philadelphia, and citing A, Foles, and B, Wentz's own personality and character. What do you make of that?
Well, listen, I'm not ready to go that far as for what Michael Vick said, but here's what I will say. First of all, when you look at the Eagles receiving core, Michael Thomas from New Orleans Saints averaged more yards per game than the whole Eagles receiving core combined.
Correct.
That's how bad they're playing this year. Now, with that being said, when I look at Carson Wentz, we've talked about this ad nauseum, Green. It seems like this team doesn't play for Carson Wentz like they did with Nick Foles. And that means something. When you have a rapport, or when you're a leader of men and guys want to play for you, it just doesn't seem like that locker room really responds to Carson Wentz. I don't know what it is. And once Nick Foles moved on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, they rewarded Carson Wentz with a contract almost like to massage his ego, to let him know, like, hey, you're our guy, when you really only had one elite season in Philadelphia.
The comments really hurt me to hear because they might be true. But for me, Woody, we got to stop blaming the receivers. And I've seen a lot of blame placed on receivers this year. But when you're paying Wentz excess of $100 million, he has to take some fault. And I want to show everybody just why Wentz has to take the majority of the fault. Watch the Seahawks game. This is a past weekend. This is easy points. You overthrow a screen pass. Now watch one more time. On the flip side, you overthrow another screen pass. Caesar gives me, but this is what hurts. Ertz is open. Get rid of the ball right now, Carson Wentz. Instead, you hold on to it, you take a sack, force fumble, and if I'm not mistaken, the Seahawks recover. So I understand, the Eagles receivers haven't been great, but get this. Greg Ward started last week. They brought him off the practice squad. Jordan Matthews started last week. He spent the majority of the season on the street. Carson Wentz, you're making $100 million before the games. Make sure your receivers are going to be in the right place. I can't stand when blame is put on guys. They're not compensated like you are, Wentz, so you got to take the blame.
And it's also worth pointing out, Rex Ryan said it Monday here on our show, he goes to work every single Sunday in a stadium that has a statue of Nick Foles outside. That has to be something, right?
Yeah, the problem is, and again, Nick Foles is a great dude. He was my roommate when I was first in Philly. Phenomenal guy, but here's the problem, Greeny. What the Eagles did right in starting Nick Foles and having no beef over the last 2 seasons, we're now seeing the negative effects and the negative impacts of it. Imagine going to work, Greeny, you walking through this door, and you see a statue of another analyst, another lead show host. It's tough to do.
Yeah, it's got to be.